I was in Lisbon, Portugal, in the Alfama district, which is famous for its steep hills and ancient slippery cobblestones. It's beautiful, but it's a workout. I'm sitting on a bench catching my breath when a guy in pristine white Nikes and a polo shirt soaking wet with sweat stops in front of me. He looks up the vertical incline of the street, then looks at his phone map, completely betrayed. He turns to a local grandmother hanging laundry and asks, "If this is a capital city, where is the ADA-compliant escalator to the castle?" The woman just slapped a wet sheet against the wall and ignored him. 7 hills don't flatten out just because you have bad knees. Then I was down in Melbourne, Australia, in one of those incredibly hip laneway cafes where the baristas take coffee more seriously than surgery. The place smells like roasted beans and pretension. A businessman in a suit, clearly fresh off a flight from the States, walks up to the counter. He stares at the menu listing flat whites and magic coffees, looking totally lost. He finally sighs and says to the award-winning barista, "I don't need the fancy words. Just give me a large, regular coffee with half and half like a normal country." The barista stared at him like he'd just asked for a cup of instant mud. There is no regular when you're south of the equator. In Florence, Italy, I was browsing through the San Lorenzo leather market, smelling the tanning oil and listening to the haggling. A guy from Florida wearing a visor is arguing with a stall owner over a jacket. He's got his passport out and is tapping it aggressively against a calculator. He looks the vendor dead in the eye and says, "I'm an American citizen, so you legally have to take the VAT tax off right here. I don't pay European taxes." The vendor just slowly started folding the jacket back up. International tax law is rarely decided on a sidewalk in Tuscany. I took a trip to Iceland and visited one of those geothermal pools surrounded by steam and volcanic rock. It's nature at its most raw. A mother is there with her 2 teenagers, dipping her toe in the water with a look of extreme suspicion. She waves over a lifeguard who is dressed in a full parka and asks, "Is there a thermostat for this volcano?" My kids aren't allowed to swim in anything over 85 degrees. The lifeguard just looked at the steam rising from the earth and blinked. The Earth's core doesn't usually come with a remote control. Germany is usually great for order, but the Autobahn confuses people who think they're race car drivers. I was at a rest stop near Munich watching cars blur past at 120 miles per hour. A guy in a rental Ford Fiesta is shaking, looking like he's seen a ghost. He walks up to a trucker, pointing a trembling finger at the highway and yells, "I rented a car to drive fast, but why are you people driving like you're trying to win the Daytona 500? The trucker just bit into his sandwich and shrugged. The left lane is not a place for timid tourists. Driving in the UK is a nightmare if you aren't used to it, especially in the Cotswolds, where the roads are basically goat paths. I'm walking my dog in a tiny village when a massive Range Rover with rental stickers gets wedged between 2 hedge walls. The driver, a woman who looks like she manages an HOA, rolls down the window. She glares at the oncoming tractor and screams, "These roads are clearly one way. How do you expect 2 cars to fit here without a lawsuit?" The farmer in the tractor just turned off his engine to wait her out. A 1,000-year-old road doesn't widen itself for an SUV. I was in Istanbul, Turkey, standing outside the Hagia Sophia, listening to the call to prayer echo over the city. It's a solemn religious site. A guy in board shorts and a tank top tries to walk in, but security stops him. He gets red in the face, pulls out his ticket, and announces to the crowd, "I paid $20 for this ticket, and that entitles me to wear my tank top wherever I want in this building." The guard simply blocked the door with his arm. Purchasing admission does not buy you exemption from cultural respect. Back in Australia, I was doing the Great Ocean Road Drive, looking at the 12 Apostles, these massive limestone stacks in the ocean. A guy in a cowboy hat is leaning over the railing, squinting at the rock formations. He nudges me, looking skeptical, and asks, "Did they use concrete or plaster to build these rock stacks? They look a little flimsy to be real." I just looked at the crashing waves and walked away. Erosion is a concept that apparently requires a construction permit in his mind. Spain has a rhythm that drives American workaholics crazy. I was in Seville, walking through the streets at about 3 p.m., which is prime siesta time. Everything is closed. A guy in a business suit is banging on the door of a pharmacy, looking frantic. He turns to the empty street and yells, "How does this country have a GDP if nobody works between lunch and dinner?" A cat sleeping in the doorway just opened one eye and went back to sleep. The economy manages to survive even if you can't buy aspirin for 2 hours. Amsterdam in the Netherlands is dangerous if you don't know the hierarchy of the road. I'm standing on a corner watching a tourist family wander straight into the bike lane. The dad, holding a map, gets aggressively dinged at by a cyclist. He stops, puts his hands on his hips, and shouts at the biker, "In America, the pedestrian has the right of way, so you bikes need to yield to me." The cyclist swerved around him without even slowing down. Physics and Dutch commuters do not care about your jaywalking laws. I visited the cliffs of Moher in Ireland, where the wind is strong enough to blow you over and the drop is hundreds of feet. A nervous guy in a windbreaker is standing 10 feet back from the edge, looking horrified. He grabs the arm of a park ranger and points at the sheer drop. He asks, "This is a slip and fall settlement waiting to happen. Who is the manager of this cliff?" The ranger just pointed at the Atlantic Ocean. Nature generally doesn't carry liability insurance. In Prague, Czech Republic, I was walking across the Charles Bridge at dawn, admiring the statues and the mist on the river. A guy with a thick guidebook stops in front of a statue from the 1600s. He taps it with his knuckle, frowns, and says to his wife, "Come on, this bridge can't actually be from the 1300s. Concrete wasn't invented until the Hoover Dam." A local artist setting up his easel just sighed deeply. History existed long before federal infrastructure projects. I went to the Normandy beaches in France, a very somber and powerful place. I'm in the gift shop near the memorial, looking at postcards. A man wearing a hat with an eagle on it is at the register trying to pay. He pushes a $20 bill at the French cashier and says, "Since we liberated this place in the 40s, shouldn't you guys accept US dollars at the register?" The cashier looked at him with a mix of pity and exhaustion. Geopolitics does not dictate current currency exchange rates. Greece is full of ancient ruins, but some people expect them to look brand new. I was at the Acropolis in Athens, looking up at the Parthenon, which had some scaffolding on one side for preservation. A woman with a "can I speak to the manager" haircut is staring at the cranes. She turns to a tour guide and snaps, "I didn't fly 10 hours to see a construction site. When is the grand opening for the finished building?" The guide just stared at the 2,500-year-old marble in silence. You can't rush a renovation that started in 447 BC. Finally, I was in Stockholm, Sweden during the summer. It was 10:30 p.m. and the sun was still bright in the sky. I'm in the hotel lobby when a guy comes down in his pajamas, looking furious and sleep-deprived. He slams his hand on the front desk and demands, "Can you call the city? The streetlights are too bright. It's supposed to be dark at night." The receptionist politely informed him that it was, in fact, the sun. Celestial bodies do not adhere to your bedtime schedule.